Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Catherine Mattice here, founder and CEO of Civility Partners. Today I have with me David Greco, and he is a trust and estate litigation attorney with a fantastic tagline. He says, "I sue dead people," which I love. He's opened and he currently runs the San Diego office of RMO LLP. And so he's handling all aspects of trust and estate litigation as well as appellate matters. And I'm super excited to have David with me because I love case studies about culture and what organizations are actually doing to create a positive, inclusive type of culture. And RMO does that. So thank you, David, for being here with me today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's do this. So talk to us about RMO. There's probably a lot to cover, but what is RMO doing that attracts a diverse workforce? How do they help ensure there's inclusivity for that diverse workforce?
Yeah, I think that it's useful in talking about law firms in general and the way that law firms approach hiring and supportiveness. Before we talk specifically about RMO, to kind of talk about what people call the old boys club in law firm culture. And it's been known, particularly in well-established firms, that certain demographics of folks are going to advance, certain demographics of folks are not going to advance. I, of course, don't want to name any names, but I have seen close friends and through personal experience, firms where if you were not going to be a straight white male, you're not going to be made partner, for example. Your business development opportunities were not going to be supported. I have heard law firm partners explicitly say that they don't want to support business development efforts of women because they're worried that the women will go on maternity leave. And these aren't things that I heard in 1952. These are things I heard in 2015, 2016 as I was looking at my options. So, of course, not every law firm is that way. There are plenty of good and inclusive law firms out there, but there are just as many firms that haven't really adapted to the many different people that are now practicing law. But RMO is so different, and it's why I'm so happy to be a part of the firm, because it's never been an issue. I'm a gay man, and I had been told in job interviews elsewhere that my affiliation with LGBT lawyers groups was a negative part of my candidacy. I had one interviewing attorney, I guess I'm struggling to phrase this in a way that comes off as not bitter, but basically what this person said to me was they were surprised to learn that same-sex couples had the same problems and issues that opposite-sex couples did. And surprised to learn that same-sex couples would talk about things like moving for a job or, adjusting their life to advance the career of somebody. And basically what that meant to me and the way I perceived that comment was she just assumed that same-sex couples were flighty with each other and that they didn't form the same bonds with one another that opposite-sex couples did. And I'm truly taken aback by that. But, like I said, RMO is different. I joined the firm in December of 2019, and our managing partner, Scott Ron, came down to the San Diego office after it opened, and I have a picture of myself and my partner on my desk. And without missing a beat, he says, "This your partner? What does he do? What's his name?" And that has not always been the case. I've always been out at work, but I've experienced situations where partners or other associates make comments that don't make it so welcoming. But it's not like that at RMO. And in fact, Scott Ron, our managing partner, and all of the leadership team really go out of their way to support and protect the employees. We had a client who was working with one of our female attorneys and was making comments, like, "Oh, sweetie, honey," cutie pie, that kind of a thing. And the second that Scott Ron found out about that, it was a phone call to the client. It was made clear that if it happens even one more time, we wouldn't be representing the client anymore. And I think that that story is so reflective of how RMO works, because I can say from the many other firms that I've been at and the firms that close friends might have been at, that would never happen.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And I can back you up on that. I mean, I coach people engaging in really aggressive behavior, and it always starts somewhere, something like that. And then over time they get permission that it's okay to do those things, and it goes from there. So that's awesome that it's being nipped in the bud right away like that. How did RMO attract you? I'm curious. So for others listening, what are some kind of tips that we can glean from RMO and how they go about attracting people like you who are interested in, being in a place where it's comfortable to be yourself?
Yeah, they have a great recruiter who they work with, and she has a little bit of a different style of recruiting. She and I had several conversations before I was presented to the firm. We got to know each other. I took the opportunity at RMO because it was an opportunity to open an office, which was something I was very excited about. But I knew nothing about the firm when I joined. And I did have some candid conversations with the recruiter about whether I was going to be able to sort of be myself at work. And she made clear, and I trusted her when she said that everybody at RMO is incredibly supportive, and really what they care about at the end of the day is, are you going to do a good job for our clients? Mm-hmm. And when people are happy at work, and I'm sure you know this, they do better work. And RMO really understands that. And that's why we do such good work for our clients. I mean, our mantra is to be faster, better, and cheaper than the competition, because we have no internal politics that are taking our energy away from the work that we do for our trust and estate clients.
Wow, that's very, very cool. You're going to introduce me to the CEO or the owner. I rarely meet people like that, especially in the work I do, where it's, it is toxic and leaders aren't so clear on that if people can be themselves and feel comfortable and enjoy each other, that's going to absolutely affect your work. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about yourself, David, and thanks for allowing me to ask you this. But I think it's important for, some of us out there who, I certainly have some scenarios where as a woman, I've experienced discrimination or felt that I was not held back, but I had one guy ignore me, for example, just because I felt like I was the woman in the room. But what's that like for you day in and day out? So at RMO at work, it sounds like it's great. You're able to just be you, and that's awesome. But we've had conversations before about when you're networking, for example, or at a business meeting, that sometimes you have to gauge the audience and kind of figure out what can I say here? I don't know. Could you talk about that? What's that like to have to kind of constantly navigate, what you're saying?
Yeah, it's I went through a lot of strife, I think, in my early years as an attorney, dealing with whether I wanted to be out at work, whether I wanted to be affiliated with, visibly affiliated with LGBT organizations, because in part of this one attorney who was so concerned that this was on my resume. And I thought, is this really going to be something that negatively affects my career? And I concluded that I would rather just keep it on my resume and find places where it's going to be okay. And thankfully, that was the right path for me. And I could afford at the time to be a little more selective about where I worked. But, at one of the prior firms I worked at, it was well known that one of the, I would say, higher producing partners, a rainmaker, was a gay man, but that the other partnership had indicated to him that he was not allowed to bring his partner to firm events, that he should not express to anybody in any explicit way that he was in a same-sex relationship. And that partner adhered to those standards up and until I left. And so seeing that, I was a very junior associate at the time, was pretty scary to me. I really thought, is this going to be the way it is for me if I want to continue to be a partner? And, am I going to have to hide who I am at work? And thankfully, of course, I don't. So that was a big impact on me early in my career. And as far as now where I am, and I'm responsible for business development, as you mentioned, in our San Diego market. And so I do a lot of networking. And when you're networking, you run into the old boys club members, so to speak. And, one of the things, again, that Scott Ron says is you find your people and it works. I don't have to network with everybody. I don't have to follow up on a connection that I know is not going to work out for me. So there are times when I'm meeting with folks who I would like to be business partners with, where it's clear that if they even perceive me to be queer in any way, it's going to be a problem for them and it's going to be a problem for me, and it's not going to be worth it. And so it's unfortunate, but I've developed, I'm quite adept now at sensing whether somebody is going to be a good marketing team partner for me, whether it's going to be I can get along with, and develop a reasonably personal connection where we get to like each other and refer business back and forth, or whether it's going to be a lost cause for me to pursue it. I had an experience recently where I was networking with some folks who started to make some comments about women in a way that, even if I was heterosexual, I would think I would never say these things. And, I had half a drink left at this happy hour, and they kind of were elbowing me and like, yeah, what do you think? And I said, no, I'm gay, and I don't really think I would talk about women that way, even if I wasn't. And even though it was made super awkward at the time because these folks were not expecting me to say something like that, I just made it clear to them that we weren't going to continue to network, and that they could continue to do what they needed to do, but I was going to finish my drink and move on. And so those kinds of experiences are extremely uncomfortable. Unfortunately, I've gotten used to them, but they occur less and less as I find more and more, I'll say, inclusive people and people who really like to network with all types.
That's an awesome story, and that's a great story around allyship. And I often we think about, we do training on allyship, for example, and try to give people tools for being in the workplace when those types of scenarios happen. But to be doing that sort of out there in the world too is important, that people get you kind of always getting people to stop and think about the way they're talking or coming across. And I think a lot of people would not have done that, David. So that's awesome that you did that. And I know that takes courage. And I try to do the same, but sometimes it's like, gosh, what's going to happen if I say this? So kudos to you. Kudos to you. So I want to go back to RMO, and thank you for sharing all of that. At RMO, I'm just curious, how does your culture is very abstract, and inclusivity can be sort of abstract. How does RMO define culture? If I'm going to ask you to describe the culture, where would you go to find the answer? Are there core values that you're really following, or how is culture made not abstract at RMO?
Yeah, well, RMO actually has a set of core values that they teach to everybody that comes into the firm. The core values are: 1, always do the right thing; 2, we lead with empathy; 3, we're stronger together. So those things combined, really create a culture where we emphasize one another's strengths and we support each other where we need help. I think that story about the client who was engaging in problematic behavior is a really good example of the always do the right thing approach. That would have been, had the client continued the problematic behavior, a stream of revenue that we would have cut off, that would have closed if the behavior had continued. But RMO always does the right thing, and so they would have done it. I'm confident that if the client continued to be abusive, we would have just cut it off and said, we'll take the loss.
Yeah.
And kind of going back even to that story about these folks who I said, look, I'm not going to talk about women that way. I was confident that I could do that because I knew that I could go back to RMO and say, these folks aren't people we're going to network with. And they would say, okay, I understand. And that's okay. And let's continue to work and support and find ways for you to find people that you work with. And they've been great about that. They provide resources for all of the, I don't want to say flights of fancy, but all of the things that I am interested in business, in local bar associations. They're incredibly supportive of it. And so, I was able to make that correction of those folks because I knew that I was going to have the support from RMO.
That's great. Often companies create core values and they're just sort of on the wall, but nobody really knows them. And here you're living them. And that's what core values are for. They're meant to guide the behavior of people internal in the organization. And just a lot of organizations put them on the website and sort of pretend that that's how our company operates, but it's really guidelines for the workforce in the organization. Here's what we want you to do. And you did that. That's very cool. Very cool. What else do you all do training around kind of inclusivity and allyship and respect, or how do you perpetuate this behavior of doing the right thing?
There's no specific training on inclusivity or respect or anything, but I've never perceived at RMO for there to be a need for that. Okay. Like I said, Scott came, he said, is this your partner? There was no question that it was going to be fine. He leads, and Sean Muntz, our other managing partner, and the rest of the leadership team, they just lead by example. It's very clear that everybody is welcome as long as you work hard and service our clients. And so there's no formal training on it. We just recently had a firm-wide meeting to go over these core values again and talk about RMO's continued path. So there is that, but I think we're lucky enough not to need that sort of explicit diversity training.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Wow, kudos to Ron and all of these leaders and managing partners for doing this. I feel like the legal industry, if you will, is probably one of the places that there isn't a whole lot of that, versus maybe tech would be, an industry where you think maybe there's more diversity. So it sounds like RMO really, really stands out as a leader in creating an inclusive environment in your world. That's very cool.
I've never been happier, so I can say that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for being with me today. I appreciate the case study and just kind of hearing your perspective. And I love that you're standing up for others when you hear negative things, and that your company stands by you and do that. Hopefully we can continue to move to a place where all companies allow that. We've got some clients where, hey, that's the way the client is. They pay the bills, so we're going to leave it alone. And I just don't think that's not the right path. So kudos again to RMO and to you. Thank you very much for being with me. Tell us how we can get a hold of you. And of course, we'll, put that in the comments.
Oh, sure. So my phone number is 619-323-3201. My email address is grecod@rmolawyers.com. Our website is rmolawyers.com. And I'm sorry that my cat is popping in.
I was just going to say, it looks like you have another colleague there with you.
Supervising me today.
Yeah. Well, people listening, definitely reach out to David if you have any questions about, everything he's talking about, or want some guidance for your law firm on how to create a great culture. And I'm surprised we didn't get a lot of comments today, but I'm seeing, looks like we were having trouble streaming to LinkedIn. So we'll get this uploaded on LinkedIn and hopefully get some comments going there as well. And thanks again, David, and I will talk to you soon.
Great. Good to see you. Thanks so much.